I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. One thing I taught myself to do, no matter the problem, refuse to lose. So, how you want it, man? You can choose. If you can't take the heat, don't light the fuse. See, I walk in slow and ignite the room. Like fire, everything I touch, I consume. I'm getting up while y'all just snooze. While you make breakfast, man, I'm on the move. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. In me I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough, I ain't never gay, no, I ain't scared, man, you know black men don't blush, Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Won't you come and see what it's like, living by the rules that you write. You ain't know those lavish delights, now you had no back in sight. All the little lies you recite, just makes all the savage unite. Usually I'm very polite, but I'ma get savage tonight. Even when the dog being nice, every single dog gonna bite. You might think I'm wrong, but I'm right. Just let it get a strong appetite. I'ma let it breathe just a little, give it to you strong, heavy metal. I don't make a sound when I strike. You better just run for your life. Run for your life. Your life. Run for your life. Run for your life. Run for your life.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis. And today I am joined in the studio by the lovely keepress of the chats, none other than Brittany the Shadow, as well as via Zoom by the tag team of Brad Whitbeck and Jacob Hansen here from Thoughtful Faith, who just had a really interesting debate. You actually got, I swear, I hate debates, Jacob. I don't know how you keep subjecting yourself to this horrible format, but you formalize it, and you even got 7.5 minutes of cross-examination and examination, but you just had a really interesting debate debunking the claim that the LDS church is abusive, and we just want to follow up with you and see how that goes. Before we jump into hearing from Jacob, want to recognize a bunch of the members in the chat, some really hilarious pre-show chatting here. Paulie Nike says, let's talk about Jacob Hansen's recent video and the fire regarding church members going weak. Oh, we can also talk about that one as well. And apparently some people less pleased saying, can we talk about how Jacob destroyed his gift today on his show? Excited to hear his thoughts on this. I applaud Justin for pretty much doing what Timber and Cardin did on Jubilee and walk into the Lion's Den. So you are the Lion's Den, my friend. You are the Lion's Den. Yes, Brittany?
Destroyed his guest.
Oh, destroyed his guest.
Yeah, he clarified.
Oh, not his
Jacob
gift.
Jacob didn't destroy his gift.
Oh,
I was like, that bust of Brigham Young, that beautiful bust. You like, what theatrics were you going through?
Dude, that is too funny. And Brad Whitbeck is going to tell us about how beautiful and cute and adorable his new baby is that has kept him out of the studio.
6 more.
Yeah, for real. You know what I'm saying? For real. So anyway, yeah, we got a super fun show as always. Guys, oh look, the chat is saying how much they've missed you, Brad.
That's
so
sweet.
That was a very tender-hearted loving Ward newsletter right there. So anyway, as always, guys, please like the stream as you guys are coming into the stream. Share with your friends. Say, hey, we got a good thing going over here. We have a fun conversation about anything and everything having to do with the church. And if you have any questions, as long as they are appropriate, can be read aloud and germane to the conversation, then we'll try and read them out loud. So please don't forget to send us a super chat. And shout out to, our boy, Don Bradley's in the chat as well. Onondagas,
Hi, Don.
which I'm getting to be more familiar with as I meet these Heartlander after Heartlander on my show. You know, I'm starting to get more into like all of these cool old, like the prophetic lore and stuff like that. Because that's a big part of their geography model, you know. And also we're going to be having, it's going to be fun. We're going to probably have Jerry Grover back talking some sick Mesoamerican stuff, as well as some, our show's kind of become a battleground for the geography of the Book of Mormon. It's actually kind of funny. So anyway, without any further ado, Jacob, dog, you had a debate. What'd you think? Tell us how it went. Brad, you can tell us what your opinions were. You know what I'm saying? But Jacob, tell us what spawned this idea. What made you want to debate this? Because you're a guy that kind of puts out there, hey, I want to debate this topic. And then, you know, people say, hey, I am the champion.
Cardin,
you know? Yeah, what?
They're saying the audio is off. It's lagging again.
No, the audio cannot be lagging. Okay,
No.
hold on. Just to test, I'm going to say that diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. And then I'm going to go into OBS here. I'm going to go to OBS. And there's by the way, if there's any proof that this is done live, here is your proof. And if any of you guys ever want to get into live stream, just know you will have to handle this stuff live. And it's in advanced audio properties, okay? And there sometimes is an automatic lag that comes up on some of the devices when they're programmed in. And it's just something you have to deal with. Now, I do believe that it should be gone. There was a 250 millisecond lag. So, anyway.
There's also a 250 DOP chat.
Oh, okay. Awesome. We'll read the chat and then we'll let Jacob talk about his debate.
Okay. Oh, man. Nope.
There it is.
Okay. Stalin Cespedes. Yes.
Cespedes.
Yeah,
Ah.
if you say it with your fingers like this, it's a little bit more intense. Cespedes.
Cespedes.
Okay, awesome. That's
Okay.
pretty good.
Jacob, thanks for your video about stop being boring and shallow. When I joined the church back in 2007, the talks were more direct. Greetings from
The
DR,
DR.
Dominican Republic.
Yeah, we assume it's the DR. So, wow, 250 DOP. Is that Dominican overvalued pesos? Like, what's the, I don't know what the, I mean, there's 250 of them. I don't know if that's awesome and he just gave us a buck, or if, like, you know, he just made it rain on YouTube and, like, it's like $500 US. I don't know. But thank you very much, Stalin Cespedes. So anyway,
For the
yeah,
pesos
dude.
dominicanos.
Yeah,
Oh,
pesos
oh.
dominicanos. All right. So anyway, yeah, thanks for the video about not making the church boring and shallow. Tell us about both. The video about not making the church boring and shallow and your debate. Jacob Hansen, go.
Well, first, I want to know how your date night went. I think it's the first time I've ever seen you in like a nice collared shirt like this, looking so slick. How was the date night, Brittany?
Thank you, Jacob, for noticing. I dressed Cardin today.
Okay, this is really this is really embarrassing because my editor used to work for Fox, and he was on the show once. He was a Fox promo guy, and he literally said like a week ago, he's like, Cardin, you know, now that you're getting like bigger and you're gonna be like representing like the church and by default me, you know what I'm saying, as a member, because he's also a member too. He said, you might want to consider having your wife dress you before you get on camera. And so I was like, all right, babe, you can dress me. So we didn't actually have a date night, but she did indeed dress me before the show, choosing both the hat and the shirt as the ensemble. And you can't smell it, but I'm wearing Michael Kors cologne right now too. So yeah, so there's
a sweet aroma in the
there's a
studio
sweet
now.
aroma inside the studio that you're missing out on, Jacob. So
I knew something was up when I saw you. I was like, something's different here. So, Brittany, good work. Good work.
Thank you.
So, Anyway, so the debate thing, I'll tell you kind of how that came about. So online, there's a few different, it's just Twitter stuff where people are constantly dropping all these stories about the abuse in the church. Bill Reel and them had on some ambulance chaser attorney guy that was like, I've sued the church and gotten all this money and they're terrible. And so I was familiar with the work of Jennifer Roach, who's done basically my debate, just so everybody knows, like, I don't want to take credit for it because I said in the beginning of the debate, like, giving her credit, most of what I was talking about was stuff that she had already said. I was basically just giving what she had talked about and seeing if the opponent could in any way handle it. Anyway, but this guy, his name's Justin Riggs. He on Twitter is LDS Abuse is his Twitter handle. He's always posting about this kind of stuff. And so I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I basically was like, I'll debate someone on the topic of LDS abuse. Like, I think I have a pretty strong argument here. He was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so we set it up, and anyway, it came together, and he's a nice guy. Like, I don't have anything personally against him, but he has a lot of ideas that needed to be debunked. And I think it went pretty well. I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought it went well, and I encourage people to watch it and make up their own minds.
Okay, well, Jacob, Polynike's 2000 says, Jacob's recent video was fire. I immediately forwarded it to my bishopric for discussion during this Sunday's bishopric meeting. So,
oh, snap.
Hot dang.
All right, Brad,
a lot of people, it's funny, I got a lot of reaction out of that video that I didn't expect. Like, I thought it was decent video, but like the response has been pretty big to it, so it's been kind of cool.
Now, is Polynike talking about your video saying quit making the church boring and shallow, or is he talking about the debate that you just had?
Yeah, he's talking about about that one.
Oh,
the one about it being boring and shallow.
Oh, right. So what has the feedback you've been getting that surprised you?
I think I've just said something that people are thinking, but no one is saying. Which is essentially just that if you look at the history of the church, especially the times of our greatest growth, it wasn't a time when we were trying to be like really soft and politically correct. People actually are inspired by people who really believe in their beliefs. It's funny, after I released that video where I kind of crapped on what I think is a lot of the shallowness that's out there, that I don't think is becoming of the people who are trying to follow Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and the other prophets who've been freaking wildly like controversial, where we just like hide from controversy all day long. And even my older brother who, has left the church, he sent me a message like after he watched it and was like, hey, like, obviously I disagree with some of the like stuff with the church, but he was like, right on, like, that was a great video. Like, I admire people who stand up for what you believe or what they believe in. And like, so it was kind of like meaningful to me in the sense of like, here's my Exmo brother that's like, right on. Like, if you're going to be a member, be a freaking member.
Yeah, it's like if you're I would that you would rather be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll spew thee out of my mouth, right?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, there's just, we have this culture of niceness. You guys bring it up all the time. Greg talks about it a lot, where we're just so afraid of making anyone upset that we basically don't ever say anything that's really meaningful. Because when you are authentic and you kind of have the real conversations, it, like, we all know this. This sort of like the way that you are around people kind of in public where you're trying to be real nice and not wanting to say things that might offend somebody. And then there's kind of the real talk that you have behind closed doors with people that are close to you. And I think that you guys on Ward Radio do that. You guys are like you guys kind of lay it out there. You guys are yourselves. Like, I'm with you guys, and like when we're on camera, off camera, it's kind of like the same deal. Where I know there's a lot of channels out there, dude, where they all talk in these soft tones and are really uncontroversial. Dude, I know as soon as the cameras go off, they're like, oh yeah, that guy's a freaking idiot.
Yeah. It's like, well, and
it's fake. It's like, just be yourselves, guys.
Well, I'm glad that you say that and you recognize that on this program. I do credit us for being authentic. And one of the biggest worries I have that's actually getting lived out in real time in front of us is the fact that this niceness culture, okay, is really a false idol. And it's germane to the topic of this live stream right now, debunking the claim that the LDS church is abusive. The reason why so many of these false claims about the church being abusive have gotten so far is first because one of the anti-Mormon rules, the top 30 rules, is we always have to try and co-opt other churches' scandals. They try and co-opt the scandals of Scientology and of Catholicism and of all these other organizations and fit a square peg into a circular hole saying, see, this is our version too. See, we hate the church. You know, so half the time these claims are just wholesale disingenuous or they're revisionist history, you know, and it's garbage. All right. But my biggest problem isn't with anti-Mormons being anti-Mormons and making up stuff about the church. It's the inability of the church to defend themselves, because niceness culture has become a false idol and a false god, but it is a jealous god and it demands sacrifice. And the first thing you sacrifice is your integrity. And the second thing you sacrifice is your ability to defend yourself. Because in niceness culture, if you say, no, that's wrong. Like, no, I call BS. Like, oh, no. Hold on a second. That's not the way it is. Oh, well, that's contentious. They have so changed the meaning of words, okay, that now any kind of standing up for yourself is contentious. And contention is of the devil, and the spirit of contention. And so, like, nobody wants to...
I think part of this ties back into a false definition of love. I think that what has happened here is we have a large number of people in the church who are very committed to trying to keep the commandment to love their neighbor, right?
Yeah.
Now, what has happened is that the world has started shifting that definition of what love means from the real definition of love, which is to will the good of others, right? Even eternally, all the way across to the point where it's, because the world is more materialistic and doesn't recognize eternity as much, it's starting to go the route of, hey, don't harm those who you love, right? Or always affirm those you love, right? That's the only way that you can show that you love those people. So I think what's happening is that the definition of love has shifted in a way that people think they're keeping that commandment to love their neighbor in a way that really does not help them in the long run, right?
Well, yeah, and if you change the definition of love, you also inherently change the definition of defense. Because oftentimes loving something is defending it against false accusations. I mean, there's scriptures that talk about this, you know? And so my biggest frustration is, you know what one of our number one viewed videos of like our first 3 years was a live stream we did where I think the title was like, finally the LDS church defends itself. And the church has been accused of every heinous thing on the planet, but it wasn't until the Spotlight guy came after him and tried to make them a Catholic abuse scandal case, you know, that finally they released a press release that had they made a strongly worded letter finally, you know, that said like, we don't know why the AP would say this when it is not true. I mean, like, it was the most pepper I've ever seen.
Well, let me
Let you what? I'm letting you.
Oh, kind of broke up there. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I was just going to say that there's a little bit of delay. So what there is that that I want to also differentiate between the church kind of proper and the brethren and all of them. And I mean, obviously I could appreciate some more direct language from there. That's fine. But they'll like, especially in the last conference, like Oaks and President Nelson were pretty direct when it came to some big topics.
Yeah.
What I get annoyed with is the membership. The membership themselves, there's this culture among them so obsessed with being nice that they don't, like, again, this sort of contention is of the devil. But the problem is it actually, what Christ said was the spirit of contention is of the devil. And that is a very different thing. Like, Jesus was contentious. We have scriptures that literally tell us in the Doctrine and Covenants to contend for the faith, like to contend for it. So you have to understand that there's a difference between contention and the spirit of contention.
Yeah. In fact, I really liked something that Snagrit put in the chat. He said that contention might be well defined as ill will toward others, not necessarily conflict, right? Because you can have a contentious spirit with you when saying nice things to somebody. Nice things, right? Where you are actually trying to undercut somebody and you have ill will toward them. You want to see them fail. You want to mess up their lives, right? So I think that's a cool definition and a cool way to think of it.
So how do we fix this? I know this is off topic, but this is Ward Radio. All we do is rabbit holes. You know what I'm saying? But before we get back to, your debate and debunking some of the claims about the LDS Church being abusive and just giving us your little, the LDS Church is not abusive 101 course. All right. Like, what is the fix? Because this niceness culture is straight up crippling us. I think it is the number one reason. It is our Baal. When you read, read in the Old Testament, like the Jews kept on returning to Baal and they kept on returning to the worship of Baal instead of the one true God, right? And you kind of read it, you think, guys, haven't you figured out this doesn't work? Like, look at the history, look at the other stories, look at the foundational myths, look at everything. This doesn't work. I feel like niceness culture is this generation's Baal. And I want to know what you think, Brad, because you're much more diplomatic than me, and what you think, Jacob, because you're much less diplomatic than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what has worked in your guys' opinion of getting rid and fighting back of this false idol of niceness culture?
Jacob, you want to go first?
Oh,
okay,
I'll go first,
I'll do it. Okay, you got it.
All right, so I was going to say, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. That's what Jordan Peterson has talked about. And what I found is that when you tell the truth divides. It divides those who love the truth from those who hate the truth. Now, here's the thing. If we don't know the truth, that's fine. But the thing is when we stop telling the truth, people start to believe the lies. And when people start to believe the lies, that actually creates contention. Because what happens is as more and more people believe the lies, then when the truth comes out, they rebel against it. They don't like it because they've been convinced of lies. So when lies are being told constantly about the church and we don't respond to them, they spread. And that's a problem. We need to be out there correcting the record because otherwise you're going to get more contention, not less.
Interesting. I dig it. Brad, go. By the way, Brad, I noticed how being the more diplomatic person, as I said, you did let him go first. That was very,
hey,
that was very.
We sparred over letting the other go first.
That's because you were dealing with me and I'm not as diplomatic.
Oh, that's funny.
So actually, my answer is very similar to what Jacob is saying. I think it's almost the same thing, just expressed in a different way. I think there is deep meaning in the reason that Jesus said that the key commandments to keep are to love God and love your neighbor, right? And that he gave them in those order for a reason. I think in order for you to effectively love your neighbor, you need to love God. That helps you know what will actually be good for your neighbor and what will help you to actually uplift, encourage, and inspire and bless your neighbor in a way that will be good for both of you, right? And so I think that the key is recommitting to loving God and focusing on how you can do things that would be pleasing to both him and helpful to your neighbors. Because I think sometimes if you recommit to loving God, but you forget about loving your neighbor, you're still in trouble. You gotta still have that in balance, right? Otherwise, you're in the position of like, hey, yeah, no, I'm totally on God's side, but yeah, who needs all his children, right? Like that doesn't work.
Could I make one more point on this that I think is super important? And I think it goes along with what you're saying, Brad.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about that, and this has helped me a ton, the difference between public advocacy and private ministry. Okay? We exist in a world of ideas, a battlefield of ideas. Okay? In that battlefield, pull out your sword and go to battle for the truth. Okay? But there's a difference when I'm engaging with people in the public arena of ideas versus when I'm ministering to the one, what I call private or direct ministry. Direct ministry is where I'm actually trying to influence someone. And a lot of times it's less about arguments and it's more about, in fact, it's very, very little about arguments. It's about the relationship that I have with that person. And I think that's the love your neighbor side of it is sort of the direct ministry. But I think when we operate in this world of public advocacy, in this battlefield of ideas. I think that's where we show our love for God and the truth of God by defending it.
I think,
telling the truth.
I'll say I've had conversations here where I've pushed back on your idea, where I think it's true but half true. What I think you're trying to say is you have to tailor the message to the audience and read the room. Because if somebody's a more sensitive person, you can't be as abrupt as you would be if you were in front of like Parliament in England, right? So I don't think it's necessarily that there's a difference between public advocacy and private ministry. There's only a difference if the person is different and you're tailoring the message to them. So I don't think your message changes as much as your delivery based on the personality of the recipient is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, in a way, absolutely. These aren't like you're one person with individuals and you're another person on the public square, but you're doing two different things, right? And you can have the same principles, but apply them differently in a different context.
I personally think that you're going to be far better off trying to balance both of those commandments at all times, whether you're in public, whether you're in private. I think that you're correct to a certain degree that you need to be aware of an audience, right? And know how they're going to be interpreting things and how they're going to be understanding things. But I don't know if I'm sold on the idea of the public advocacy requiring a different kind of approach than private ministry.
Because I think you do a good job generally with your public statements. They're very well measured. In fact, sometimes your more public statements I feel are better. You know, we're nitpicking at this point over just semantics. You did a great job in your debate.
No, I think this is very important. I think this is a very important conversation to have. And it's something that a lot of people don't understand. I might actually release a whole video on it. But the basic idea here is like, I'll give a more concrete example. Okay. I have a family member I have family members who've left the church, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that my relationship with those family members would be kind of rough and that I'm constantly like berating them or badgering them or dunking on them or something like that. And that's not the case at all. I have a very good relationship with essentially all of my siblings. Approach them and go on the offense with them. I'm out here talking about going on the offense and things, but I also want to be careful because I don't want people to go on the offense in the wrong setting. Like It's not time to go on the offense with a family member who is, you're living with, unless you have to like defend something. Like I do get that, but when I'm in the battlefield of ideas, attacking church and do that like for a living, it's like, okay, this is different. My relation, because it isn't even like if I'm having a debate with somebody like this guy, I actually like Justin, his name.
Yeah, I think Justin
is a person. I never would have had that conversation with. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Justin, I think, is a much better name than this guy. That was an improvement. You know what I'm saying? That was a good job of ministering to the one instead of public advocacy and private ministry or whatever. Good job, Jacob.
See, here's the deal. I never would have had the conversation that I had today with Justin if it was just me and him sitting at, McDonald's together having lunch, right? Like, That's not the conversation to have. But in the realm of public ideas, there's an audience. I'm not talking to him. I'm having that conversation. I'm not going to convince him.
Okay.
But there are people watching who might be convinced. And the thing is they're all watching us. And so when I'm on the public stage, I need to ensure that I leave the interaction with the audience saying, hey, I think he was right. And here's the other thing. You are rarely convinced by somebody who preaches to you directly, but everyone sits there and listens to podcasts and freaking YouTube videos all day long. And you're convinced by when people are preaching to someone else. And you can preach hard to someone else, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to that conversation and you're not the one, you're kind of eavesdropping on it, that's where you really get, like, people don't feel threatened. And you can really, make good arguments and engage. So I mean, maybe I'm not expressing it well, but there has to be an understanding. Like and I don't feel like I'm two different people at all. I have the same principles across the board, but people who know me personally do not know me as this bombastic, bomb dropping, hard to get along with person. Like the exact opposite. I'm known as like the nice guy.
Yeah, that's funny.
Seriously.
And so what I think I want to say in with what you're saying here, I think you're completely correct that context determines a ton of like how you're going to say what you're going to say, right? I do think that the contexts that we're engaging in should never supersede the like gospel of Jesus Christ. And the more that I study it and the more that I've like started diving into it, I'm looking at myself thinking, oh crap, I need to apply a lot more of the Sermon on the Mount before I open my mouth more, you know? And I don't think that means be weak and be a pushover, right? Like to go back to Jordan Peterson talking about meekness, what was his definition of that?
Like being a gardener in a war and not being a gardener in a war, but being a warrior in a garden.
I remember him mentioning something about knowing how to use a sword but not drawing it.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that?
Yeah. I think we lost
Jacob.
Are
we losing Jacob?
No, he's back.
Yeah, although I have some issues. Oh, you guys can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I have my issues with Jordan Peterson's definition.
Oh, really?
On that one. But I do like the sentiment and I do think it's true. However,
because I think that example can be powerful for people. And sometimes that example can be more powerful than what we might say. You know, like
I agree.
If people...
I don't believe in saying much at all in the work of ministry. I don't. But when it's sort of like, am I speaking to the person across from me, or am I speaking to the audience that's watching? Okay, because if I wanted to influence someone, you don't like the way you influence someone if you're engaging with them directly is not beating up their argument. But if you want to influence people watching, that's what we're trying to do. That's what everyone's trying to do in the battlefield of ideas. You're trying to show why your ideas are worth taking seriously and the other people's aren't. That's what you guys do all day on this channel.
Yeah.
And that's what the battlefield of ideas is. And you have to try and win the battle, because if you lose the battle, there's big consequences to that.
And I think maybe this is a bit of a societal problem, because I don't know if people recognize that calling somebody to repentance is an act of love, right? When Christ is saying, as I have loved you, love one another, what was he doing all the time? Calling every single one of his disciples and everyone he was preaching to repentance.
Oh, I look forward to that. Yeah. I look forward to morally justifying me calling my friends to repentance ad nauseum in scripture. That actually just sounds really, really fun to me. So, all right, just a couple of comments here really fast. We're going to catch up on some super chats. I loved the little Jordan Peterson lecture that we just got from Jacob Hansen. In fact, Snagrit says, Jordan Peterson incarnate. Danny Gray says, Jacob is literally a traveling elder. That is pretty funny because you actually are traveling. One of our new listeners, Yadi, all right, Yadi has to join. You know what I'm saying? Usually we don't highlight non-member comments in the chat, but this one was too funny. I can't overlook it. She said, Jacob driving is literally giving me anxiety. I said a prayer for him. So you are now preyed upon, my friend, with your hands-free driving
I'm almost home.
Zoom device. And then also, somebody brings up a really good point. If you are a traveling elder, Descartes says, if Osler can do firesides for the church, why can't Peterson? You know, in fact, why can't you? Why can't Brad? Why can't Ward Radio? Why can't Thoughtful Faith? You know, we should start doing our own firesides, because for heaven's sakes, did you notice that Hayden and Jackson Paul got asked to do a fireside?
I've considered it, guys.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It.
Are you going to be a little traveling elder?
Yeah, I've considered it.
Okay. What would
we'll see.
What would the title of your fireside be? How to not be nice? Like what would the top billing be, bro?
I'd have to think about it.
That's a good title.
I think I would have to. I'd have to ask people like, what would they want? Like, what ideas have I given that they have found helpful? Right? Because my thing would be to give something that people find helpful.
Okay, Brittany, can you catch us up on the chats?
Yes, I can.
All right, Brittany, keepers of the chats, hit us. What's going on?
Okay, Polynike's 2000 says, question for Jacob. Has anyone from the church office building, Young Men General Presidency, contacted you? If so, how did that go? / what would your response be?
No, they have not contacted me. I don't know what they would contact me about. I guess I have a whole thing about if I was going to talk to them about anything, I'd talk to them about my idea that I'm going to be dropping pretty soon about interest-based activities, which everybody stay tuned at Thoughtful Faith, because this one is going to be, this is a video, I think, of all the videos I've made. I make some videos that complain about stuff, and I feel kind of stupid. Like, I don't want to just be a whiner. Like, I want to try and offer some real solutions. Get entrepreneurial. Think about, how do we fix things and make it better? Put on the Elon Musk attitude, right? Like, don't just think about problems, like, go fix them. And I think that there's one, and so if they were going to talk to me about anything, I'd want to talk about those interest-based activities and see what they thought of it.
I don't know. Elon Musk,
everybody.
Elon Musk just reintroduced the misgendering policy on Twitter, and apparently Tim Pool pulled his ads, man. You got to watch out. You're going woke. Jacob Hansen's going woke. Elon Musk style. No, I'm just kidding. So next super chat, babe. Hit it.
Okay, Jonah Barnes says, a recent poll found 61% of Mormon Stories viewers are never MOS?
Yeah, never Mo's.
Oh, never Mo's. Got it.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, do you think people really view the church as abusive, or is it just cult corn watchers? Also, Cardin looks adorable. Smooch.
Oh, why, thank you. It's the jacket that not the jacket, it's the shirt that my wife bought me.
I'm so surprised that, like, these men are noticing that you're dressing up.
I'm not. Anyway, yeah, well, like, I've been saying this forever. Okay, like it's in the top 30 rules of anti-Mormons, for heaven's sakes. They always try and co-opt other churches' scandals, and they always sacrifice the integrity of the real life situation for online clout. So it's the most predictable thing on earth that as there is a cash bias, as there is a financial incentive for trying to co-opt other churches' scandals and see how they fit here, in that obscure religion out west, I would be very, very curious to see what the geographic demographics are of those people that are the Never Mo's as well. Because guaranteed they're not people that have friends and family that are members of our church. Because anybody that has friends and family that are members of our church knows, okay, yeah, this is a bunch of garbage, can't be true. And so there's a big popular social justice soundbite that has been out there that, churches, organizations, any institutional power is inherently abusive, inherently racist, inherently misogynist, bigoted, homophobic, all of the above, right? But I have to tell you, I think a lot of those arguments are naturally going to be going away as wokeism goes away. Like, everybody says we live in a post-woke Los Angeles, and I think that same attitude is going to be in Salt Lake City, Flagstaff, Boise, Idaho, the Midwest, with just like all the other cultural ripples travel through the United States of America. I think by 3 to 5 years, those arguments aren't really going to carry any water because people will have tired of wokeism and all the damage that it did to our society. So I think there's yeah.
I was going to say, I will say though, I mean, look at me right now. Why would you think it's scary or sketchy or anything like that as I'm in this Darth Vader look that I have right now?
Yeah.
I look at myself and getting like, this looks kind of dark and scary, but at least I'm parked now.
Okay, cool.
Nice. Good.
So anyway, I think there's sometimes sound bites, just like the cream of the crop rises to the top, so does the scum. Different generations have their sound bites that are both good and bad. Like in the 60s, there was some great sound bites. For example, that all you need is love, take a risk. I think there's very positive messages about conservation and, JFK saying, think not what your nation can do for you, but think what you can do for your nation. That's the cream that rose to the top in the 60s. But there was also really other, scum that rose to the top too. Like, you can't trust anybody over 30. We needed that one in the 2020s, not in the 1960s. You know what I'm saying? And other sound bites like zero populationism and so on and so forth. Okay. So I kind of feel like, X is abusive, and then insert the institution you don't like here is some of just the crappy sound bites that people will look back on as failures, just like hashtag believe all women. That worked for like 1 week with one guy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, great. We got the sacrificial single producer Weinstein. You know what I'm saying? But then like 50,000 other high profile false accusations that now make it so that, nobody trusts.
Or you pull a Kevin Spacey and juke it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You do the Jersey juke on the hashtag. So anyway, it's like I think this whole X is abusive. Will be in for a long time amongst anti-Mormons, and they'll try and recycle it because they always recycle old lies. That's like rule number 5.
So one thing that I want to try to figure out how to get to the bottom of is helping people recognize that their experience in the church isn't necessarily going to match what it is for everyone else. And this is something that I think happens to people who are on the believing side as well, where they're like, hey, the church was great for me, so it must be great for everyone else, right? Anyone who had a bad experience in the church must be lying about it. It's like, no. That is not the takeaway that you should have. I do think, Jacob, one of the things that you brought up, like the church has a better batting average than a ton of other organizations, but it's not like it's zero, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for us to always make sure that we acknowledge what is there, so people don't think that we're getting into the mode of like, the moats and beams situation where we're sitting here thinking, oh, yeah, we never do anything wrong in any way. And it's like, no. Patrick Kieran gave a talk on this for a reason, right? He talked to people about abuse and made sure that people know how big of a problem it is and how much it needs to be corrected in order to help make sure it doesn't become a problem that we're not recognizing in ourselves, right?
All right.
So that said, I don't think the church is abusive is an accurate statement, right? But to say that no abuse in the church happens ever would probably also be inaccurate.
Yeah, there's a really interesting comment here that was made where I think I'm going to have to amend the top 10 commandments of anti-Mormons. It's recycle old lies, but act like you're giving a new insight. That's very interesting. So anyway, we've received the records of a couple of new members. We'd like to welcome them into the Ward Radio Warship. We've received the records of Brian Bacon. Welcome to T. Lestral, as well as Sam. Welcome to T. Lestral as well. Everybody that would like to welcome these new members in the Ward Radio Wigwam, please put a W in the chat for Sam and Brian Bacon. Also, Brittany, can you catch us up on the super chats? And then we're finally going to dive into the topic of this live stream. 45 minutes into the live stream. You know what I'm saying? Brittany,
ready?
Super chats. Yes.
Book of Mormon for Gen Z says, permission received from Broseph Smith to read the Gen Z translation of the Book of Mormon. AI art included. Check it out. It's fun and funny. You guys rock.
Oh, is that Broseph Smith's actual YouTube channel?
The
guys that made the Gen Z? Whoa.
Maybe.
We're talking about this book right here?
I'm assuming so.
Oh, that's cool. Well, we're going to have to do that. In fact, hey, guys, reach out on the website. I'm so down to do a collab. You have no idea. So if that really is the Broseph Smith, as in the Broseph Smith folks that wrote the Book of Mormon, the unofficial Chat GPT translation for Gen Z, then reach out on wardradio.com and we will totally 100% do a collaboration. Also, we have received the records of Book of Mormon for Gen Z. All right, they just joined. So everybody that would like to welcome Book of Mormon for Gen Z, please put a W in the chat. And we're going to move on with Jacob Hansen here in 10 seconds. As soon as he sits in his chair.
Oh, can I say one other thing as he's sitting down and getting ready?
Say it.
I want to also point out that the abuse that does happen in the church is always perpetrated by people who are not living the gospel, right?
Yes.
That's one of the things that I think is really important to distinguish. People like to pretend as though, oh, well, this problem happened in the church, therefore the church is at fault. It's like, what makes you think that? Like, look at what the church actually teaches. It teaches against everything that that person did, right?
Yes, and they try and act like it's a codified part of the faith, and that's what they're teaching everybody to do. And yeah.
It's like the what was that show called? The one with the Under the Banner of Heaven.
Oh gosh,
where it's like Mormonism breeds dangerous men. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is not true. This is not something that the church is like instilling in people to be violent and criminal people, right? This is in fact against what the church teaches. Those Lafferty brothers, they were going against the gospel. And that's why I think it's never really been a big problem for the church.
No.
Really, when people look into it, like, you have some people pretend, oh yeah, this is what's going on, but in reality, no, the church isn't breeding Lafferty brothers. It's helping people come closer to Christ.
Yeah, rock on. I dig. Brittany, are we caught up
No,
on
we
super
have
chats?
one.
Okay, one more. Hit it, and then
From-
we got to get down with Jacob and talk about his debate.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Book of Mormon for Gen Z says, no, I received permission from Broseph Smith to read said book. This is loaded goat acrylics. It's so good to be back.
Oh, now I remember that name.
Yeah.
So no, I received permission from Broseph Smith to read said book. This is Loaded Goat Acrylics. So good. Okay. Interesting. Well, thank you very much. Loaded Goat Acrylics. Now that was a great name. I don't know what made you think that up, but that was a totally awesome name. So anyway, Jacob, all right, we're ready now to dive right in. Finally. Holy smoke. I would like to just start out. We've talked about how we don't like the arguments because we feel they're disingenuous. We've talked about how, we can't just be so nice and addicted to niceness culture that we're actually refusing to defend ourselves and so on and so forth. Okay, so we've covered all of that. I guess just with the time that we have left, can you give us a rundown, like, of like steel me on the other side, for lack of a better term? If you feel like there's any kind of legitimate math or data or any kind of concerns you can point to, where you say like, okay, I can see how a good faith person might think this.
So the reality is that abuse happens. Okay. And there are some horrendous stories of abuse that have happened. And there are instances where there are things that raise questions about if leaders handled it properly. Okay. And again, you could even point to potentially specific lawsuits where they're suing the church and there's a debate over how much the church should pay. And maybe the church didn't pay as much as people think that they should because they had some kind of liability. So we can talk about those all day. The problem is that you can look at anecdotes all day long. You can do that with any organization. The problem is there a pattern? What do we compare to? If you say the church is abusive, my first question is, well, compared to what? I mean, compared to the standard of absolutely no abuse ever? Well, yeah, we're abusive then, and so is every other organization in the entire world.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the issue, is when you're just bringing up anecdotes rather than looking at actual data. So
is when you're, because I watched, I watched your debate and so on and so forth. And obviously you don't want to like lambast anybody who's willing to debate. I kind of have a personal rule with like, I'm just grateful if somebody's willing to step up and debate, so I give massive credit to Justin and so on and so forth. What was the biggest flaw that you found in his arguments that you feel was kind of demonstrative of the groupthink of those that hate us? Because this is one of the number one sound bites that they try and hold up against the church, is like, I don't want to say brain damaged social justice warriors who just try and grasp at straws to make, justify the cruelty to their family in noble sound bites. All right. I won't go that far in this podcast because I appreciate that somebody tried to actually bring data into a formal debate. But in some of the informal occasions I've been involved in this type of conversation, that's what I kind of have felt like those that are arguing against us would do. So, would you say, like, what did you feel is the weakest part of that argument by those that would hold it up against us? Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't do button. The weakest argument I would say is trying to connect it to church leaders. Okay, like, again, like, he's arguing that President Nelson is part of a satanic cult that, like, wants to abuse children.
But that's like, just fun to think about. You know what I'm saying?
What?
Like,
why is that fun to think about?
Like that there's like a Temple of Doom basement in, like, you know, the Salt Lake, like it's like Indiana Jones, like we're gonna go in and expose it, and they're going like, ooh, ba, ooh, ooh, ba,
like, he's part of a satanic,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
child abuse cult. That's fun to think about. No,
there's just a point. There's just a point where the claims get so crazy. I stop thinking that, like, oh, I need to be concerned about this and my children when I go to church on Sunday. And I just start thinking, can I get this guy's number and get the movie rights? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like what I start thinking. So anyway, I'm sorry. Keep going, bro. Keep going.
Yeah, there some of the conspiratorial stuff. I mean, the guy had on his website a thing about Satanists in the church using cars and the colors of cars to communicate with each other. I mean,
oh wow,
that's not good. And he wouldn't call that a conspiracy theory, or the lady wasn't a conspiracy theorist. I mean, here's the thing. It's tough though, because it's like, all right, I was hoping that he wouldn't go down the conspiracy route, because that's the weakest, craziest stuff. And he kind of went that way, where what you should do is stick to the stories and just say, hey, look, the church has mishandled so many of these stories. That's why I think you're wrong, right? Like, that's why I think it's abusive.
Wow. Okay, cool. Now, let's flip it, because one of my biggest frustrations being a member of the church is that I noticed that like criticism against the church comes in waves. I'm a producer. I've been a part of a million different pitch meetings and a million different development meetings where, you know, you've got a season at X, Y, or Z outlet or TV channel or movie studio to fill, and you've got 10 possible projects. Television producers do this all the time. They'll produce 10 series, put them all out there, and then the top 3 that actually get good ratings, they'll finish, and then they'll just cancel the others. And they jokingly say it's like throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. I feel sometimes
like all of Netflix. Yeah,
exactly. Like all of Netflix is just a giant spaghetti bowl. If you ever wonder why so many shows that you end up liking only go like 6 episodes deep before they strangely stop mid-season, it's because they weren't getting high enough ratings that they wanted to finish the next 6 episodes. And so it just ended up being one of those pilot shows that ended up dying and will never get resurrected, except for Firefly, which became Serenity, which is one of the best comebacks of all time. So anyway, I will say, let's flip it now. I get frustrated being a member of the church that I feel like anti-Mormons just throw spaghetti against the wall and they see what sticks, and then they latch on to those sound bites that stick because they really hate the church. They don't actually care about improving the safety of children or care about the fiscal solvency of the church or the financial responsibility of Ensign Peaks or whatever. They don't care about any of that. They just want to do damage to the church, and whatever sticks, whatever piece of spaghetti sticks, they then latch onto that and ride that as long as they can until it's no longer useful, and then they just discard it and then find the next piece of spaghetti. That's kind of the way that the hive mind works. Okay, so it's frustrating to me when that happens, because like I see the overwhelming lengths that our church goes to protect people and be, in my opinion, one of the most responsible organizations when it comes to responsibly interacting with your youth, and not just with your youth, your elderly, because elderly can be vulnerable to abuse just like youth can, and so on and so forth. And between the youth protection training that I had to get as a leader in the Boy Scouts and the youth protection training I just have to get as a member of the church, and all of the protocols that we've had long before it was popular 5 years ago to start saying that, oh, we need to actually have 2 adults in one room and so on and so forth. Famously, the church was on paper as having saying we want to be the gold standard of, protocols and youth protection and so on and so forth. So I get frustrated when I see these abuse claims, and I think, dude, our church bends over backwards, like more than the organizations I volunteered with in the school districts, more than the organizations I volunteered with in the Boy Scouts. Like, they literally go to every single length to make sure that youth are protected that you possibly can in a large organization, short of, I don't know, hiring bodyguards for every individual.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
what are the stats in our favor that you found? Because we do want to have a data-driven argument.
Yeah, and just FYI, my phone is getting really close to dying here, so I'm gonna have to rip through this kind of quick.
Do it.
Okay.
The data is absolutely on our side. The big Boy Scout abuse scandal, this is the thing that Jennifer Roach talked about. They basically looked at all of the different Scout troops. And what they found was Latter-day Saint troops were 6 times less likely than other churches and civic organizations to have abuse in them. Okay? That's a big deal.
Wow. 6 times?
6 times, yes. And then
man.
when you look at things like national averages, in the nation, if you look at what's called the RAIN, it's called RAIN. It's a abuse network where they do all this research on abuse cases, and they estimate that every year there are about, for every 2,000 men in America, there's one abuse case. Well, if you look at the church's stats by a group like Floodlit that's trying to find every single case they possibly can, they literally look internationally over the past 190 years. They have cases that they go back to the 1840s on, and they've come up with 700 accusations of abuse by LDS members. Okay, now if you compare that to the national average, that's like way lower. That's like 1 in every 12,000. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is, and that's if all of those cases happened in the last year, which they haven't. They've happened over 190 years. So I mean, it's not even in the same ballpark. So the problem is, if you actually look at the data, you find that we have far lower rates of abuse, even than other churches. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Like, now, are you just making references to the obviously most public scandal of the past 20 years, the Catholic Church? Or are you saying just in comparison to the North American church at large, we're better and there's data that supports it?
So on the FAIR website, they have a talk about the Southern Baptist Convention. There was a group that did an audit on them and their abuse cases. They have about the same amount of membership. And in 1 year, they had I think it was somewhere between 300 to 500 cases. Okay. There were some documents leaked or something. I can't remember what it was, but we came out in that same thing of 70 abuse cases over the course of a year, which, okay, so that's 10 times less than the Southern Baptist Convention.
Wow. I mean, obviously 1 is too many for any organization, and we're not saying, that that's an acceptable threshold, but when viewed through the lens of data and comparative analysis, that's an overwhelmingly positive it's an overwhelmingly positive statistic, especially compared to what? LA Unified School District?
You're right.
Where we send our
question.
Yeah,
what's the public school system like?
It's about 1 in 10. 1 in 10 children that go through the public school system are abused by a teacher, according to I forget what it's called. I have to remember. It's like the American Women College Educated Women's Network or something like that. They did this analysis that shows that it's I think 9% of kids during the time in K-12 schools will have some sort of inappropriate sexual contact with some teacher or school administrator.
Oh, really? Man.
Oh yeah, it's awful. That's the other thing. People don't realize how bad the problem is. You
believe that?
The fact that we're so safe is kind of wow, good job, guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did have that one in junior high where your mom came in angry.
My mom had to come and rescue me from this teacher.
Oh, wow.
He was keeping me after school for forgetting a pencil or whatever. And it was just me and him in the classroom. And finally my mom came up to him.
She got put in detention 20 times for
yeah, and I was a good student. I was kind of
hey guys, my
student.
my phone may cut out here.
Okay. So, any final thoughts?
Yeah, dude, give us some final thoughts before you wimp out.
So final thoughts here, just shoot. Check out the debate, guys. I think it went well, and thank you guys for all your support and stuff, and keep listening to Word Radio. You guys are awesome.
Rock on. And I'm actually going to pull this article up. See ya, Jacob. I'm actually going to pull this article up, Brad, just to go over some of these stats because I looked at it while we were talking. And like, dude, God bless Fair Mormon. These guys are awesome. Or Fair LDS because now they're Faithful Answers and Reformed Responses. Or no, not Reformed Responses. They're not Calvinist. I meant informed responses. All right. And yeah, dude, I pulled up this article.
Predestined responses.
Oh, you bring up a good point.
They can't avoid them.
You know, but shedding light on the complexities, understanding abuse within the LDS church, introduction by Scott Gordon. It's kind of funny. She said, nobody grows up saying, I want to become an expert on that type of abuse in a church context, you know, but she lays out all of the information here. It looks like it was prompted by the Bisbee, Arizona scandal. And look at this phraseology right here. This packs a punch. Says, immediately, I knew what it was that was bothering me so much about this article. One of the difficulties in this article is that it was written by a reporter that I actually have a great deal of respect for. He exists in the pantheon of great American reporters, and he writes this story about a church that I found to be incredibly not only inaccurate, but disingenuous. Finally, finally, these people are like going on the offense instead of saying like, oh, well, no, he's just a doubter who has some doubts and we need to clear this up. And no, she's like, no, this is disingenuous. Like, no, you're smart enough to know better than this. This is disingenuous. So good job. What's your last name? Roach?
Jennifer Roach.
Oh, that's a tough last name. You know, I worked in pest control.
Well,
for
you're
a
a pest control guy.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, Roach.
Tough last
you know what
name.
I'm saying? I had an Aunt Rochelle, and so I called her Aunt Roach. And she was super nice. And then I had one friend in high school named Rochelle that we would call Roach as well. And looking back, I was just like, I don't know if that was the best, you know, but anyway. Okay. So, she continues here and says, okay, not only was it disingenuous, but then she starts busting out some really incredible facts here about rates of abuse, how we protect and change them. I mean, this is actually totally
she
amazing.
Would be an incredible guest for the show. I remember reading through what she was saying around the time of the Bisbee, Arizona case, where she's talking about like, look, this helpline is not about protecting the church. It's about helping these kids. You have the helpline there because all the laws are different in every state, right? And so they're trying to help bishops deal with whatever the laws are in their area so that they don't end up like, oh, I reported and crap. Turns out I'm not allowed to in this state. So now the evidence is all screwed up, right? Like they're really doing their best. And that's the thing that it always comes back to for me with whenever we talk about abuse claims like this, it's your problem's probably more with the clergy penitent privilege. And you should look at that in your state more than whether or not the church is doing anything about it, right?
And
because the church doesn't control that.
Yeah, and look at these stats. Like she analyzes the claim that there's more abuse in the LDS church than others. Meanwhile, you know, and they had to pay 30% of the fund when there was the Boy Scout compensation fund. But, dude, Jacob kind of nailed it on the head just out of memory, which is pretty impressive. That look at the sliver that is the actual percentage of troops that were 30% of the troops were LDS affiliated, right? But then when you look at the amount of the abuse, yeah, it's like I haven't found the exact 6 times. You know what I'm saying? I haven't found the exact 6 that it's 6 times less stat. But I'm looking,
that graph though.
Yeah, like I'm looking at this, and like this is really like some super impressive research and data. Like why isn't this?
Is that civic groups is the largest by far?
No, civic groups was the smallest sponsor of Boy Scout troops, it looked like. But like
okay.
you look at this data, right? And it's like church affiliated abusers is just like this small little sliver. And I mean, this is incredible stuff. And this is my question here. Like all the time we're asking, is this a people, person, or a process problem? But like, Brad, why isn't this an Elders Quorum lesson? You know what I'm saying? Like
I could see it being a Fifth Sunday thing.
Yeah, like why?
I don't know what's stopping anybody from talking about this. I think it's just, it depends on your ward.
Well, because all the anti-Mormons are nothing but pure current events.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And they're constantly twisting current events. Like how are we not debunking this? Like the internet is such.
Bring it up on Sunday.
Yeah, well,
See what happens.
It's such
tie it in some way to the lesson.
Well, yeah,
I bet you can find a way to do it.
But then you're just that awkward guy that's trying to tie in statistics of modern current events in inappropriate ways to lessons. But sometimes I feel
not
like,
if you make it really part of the lesson, right?
oh, geez, I'm not going to have a lesson.
You can do this.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when Ed is on the show and he's like, make it up. You know what I'm saying?
See, here's the thing that's really cool about this, and what I wish we could focus on more is if this is working, why not lean into it? Why not say, hey, look at what the church is doing that is working to prevent abuse. Let's put this up in as many places as we can. Let's follow this example.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's anyone out there thinking, yeah, you know what? There should be more abuse, right? Like every reasonable human being wants there to be less abuse. So these stats that you're showing from Jennifer Roach here, like let's learn from the lessons that the church has learned and actually apply these.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man.
Yeah. Well, do you see that super chat from Pale Horse Riding?
Oh, no. Catch us up on the super chats. And then we got to talk about Brad's cute baby.
Okay. So he
He's so
says,
short.
these days, the definition of abuse is used too much like a racial epithet and a tar brush. Hard to take serious. Real abuse falls through cracks.
Yeah, dude, it's like a boy who cried wolf situation, huh? I feel similar about the claim that the church is a cult, right? It's like, you really want to claim that the church is the cult because your grandma was like, hey, we should do things this way. Like maybe you had a bit of a culty grandma or a bit of a culty parent.
By the way, how about just a
grandma.
forceful grandma? Who didn't have a forceful grandma? Like if she told you, I'm not going to tell you again to clean your bedroom. Oh, is that culty too? Like, you know.
When you're talking about
never
you went to
talked about
church
that.
on Sunday where they taught you to love your neighbor versus the person who was like literally in a cult, like kidnapped from their family, not able to go anywhere, right? Like they're so different. It just drives me wild.
So while Kwaku, who was like, you know, is struggling to find his birth certificate because he literally was like a home birth in a cult, you know, on the East Coast, where like the births weren't reported to the government, like along with everything else that wasn't, you know what I'm saying? While he's struggling to be able to actually prove his identity as a U.S. citizen, we've got people online saying that we're the ones in a cult, you know, because, you know, you're guilty of a wholesome upbringing, you know, and the church actually has hospitals to birth kids in and so on and so forth. So I totally dig. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Cardin, also,
Pale horse riding, yes.
you need to welcome Laurel Winkle to the Ward Radio Worship.
Well, you know what? In the absence of Jonah Barnes, our first counselor, it's the Ward Radio Worship, but we're a different ward. I guess you're in the first presidency for a day, babe. What's it feel like to have the digital priesthood?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm going to go make my own podcast now.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So could you just welcome our new brother to the ward,
It's
first
actually
counselor?
a sister. Her name's Laurel.
Oh, even more appropriate.
Yes. Welcome, Laurel Winkle, to the Ward Radio Worship. Everyone that could welcome Sister Winkle to the worship, please put a W in the chat.
Yeah, you forgot to say we have received the records of.
Well, I'm doing it different.
Yeah.
I'm a girl.
This is why we can't give them the priesthood. They're just going to go roughshod, get rid of all the traditions. Next thing you know, we're going to be
roughshod. I
praying to
haven't heard
Heavenly
that
Mother.
expression.
We're starting our new tradition.
You know?
I haven't heard that expression in a long time.
That's funny. That's hilarious. All right, bro. So anyway, I think
Nope, not yet. Polly Nike's 2000 has a chat.
Oh, okay. What's
He says,
Pauline?
You're gonna like
Cardin.
this one, Cardin.
Cardin, milk strippings take priority over abuse.
Ah, that's true. That's true. In fact, I think what we got to do. Oh, this is a podcast. You know who we got to interview? We have to interview who is in charge of the general Sunday school presidency that approves all the materials? You know, and I want to ask, like, really, okay, so I saw Saints, this is a Saints Unscripted video, which is actually kind of funny. I saw they just did a video on like Philastus Hurlbut. You know what I'm saying? And like it showed
Dr.
like
Philastus Hurlbut.
Yeah, Joseph Smith boxing in an AI picture with Philastus Hurlbut, right? And it was either that or
no, Doctor's his first name, man.
Yeah, that's true. But it might have been a Scripture Central video now that I think of it. I can't remember. But it talked about, you know, Philastus Hurlbut, Joseph Smith's first, you know, opponent, liar, accuser, whatever. I don't remember the title very well. I just remember it had an AI thumbnail of Joseph Smith in boxing gloves with like, you know, an 1800s looking Arthur Conan Doyle style guy, which I assume is what he looked like for all we know. Okay. But anyway, I thought it's hilarious how like our church historians are really brain damaged and really just butthurt by a very select few people, you know, like John C. Bennett, Philastus Hurlbut, Edie Howe. You know what I'm saying?
Pardon, I'm throwing it in the chat, in the Discord.
Oh, you're throwing it in the Discord right now?
Yeah, so
is it the
people can see
thumbnail? Ah, here it is. Joseph's nemesis. All right, here it is. So that was awesome way to do that super fast, bro. Yeah, so here it is, just straight up Joseph's nemesis. All right. Oh, I get it. And there's David Grant in the middle right there. That's a cute thumbnail. Awesome. So I think it's really, really
David
funny.
Snell.
I think,
Right.
oh, not David Grant, right? David Snell. I'm sorry. I apologize. So anyway, I think it is really funny how like they really like, they won't let it go with certain people, you know what I'm saying? And let them just fade into obscurity, which I think is more what the
Well, to be fair,
yeah,
if they don't do something like this 10 years from now, you will have the next Jeremy Reynolds be like, they hid this from you. They never addressed it because Dr. Philastus Hurlbut got the best affidavits against Joseph Smith, and they don't have any arguments against him. They have to do this. Like,
Well,
it's not
why
them
don't we
being obsessed
switch out?
with it.
Why don't we switch out the milk strippings? Because technically Thomas B. Marsh never really did those affidavits things, right? To my knowledge. I don't know. Maybe he did and I'm totally wrong. But maybe
Oh,
we
no.
just
The affidavits is the Dr. Philastus Hurlbut.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, fine, let's keep the Philastus Hurlbut stuff, okay? But like maybe instead of doing the milk strippings, we could have an additional fifth Sunday where it's like we just straight up, I've never had an Elders Quorum meeting where we just straight up debunked anti-Mormon claims. But every single time I've talked about a debunking, when people have had questions about it in Elders Quorum, people have been riveted. So I kind of feel like the natural economy of thought, debunkings are underserved and would be wholly appropriate for some of these church settings, especially because we live in a digital world now. Whether we like it or not,
Well,
we live in a digital
here's the thing,
world.
Though. Here's the thing. Why would a group of converts in Africa, in South America, in Canada, why would a group of converts care about any of that? They want to learn about the gospel of Jesus
No,
Christ.
well, fifth Sunday. I'm saying make it like a fifth Sunday thing. And if the bishop in Africa or Canada,
I can see that because if we have people like actually learning these sorts of things, I think that's good. Like we should be leaning into this sort of stuff in our wards and being able to comfortably talk about it with one another. Some of my coolest wards out in New York were that way, where like everyone was comfortable enough with one another that they were willing to talk about these things, right?
Okay.
So I think, yeah, you're right. If we were to do it in like a fifth Sunday sort of thing in contexts where this matters to people, awesome.
Okay. Also, we've received the records of several new members here. Holy smoke.
Starting
First
with
off,
Yari.
yeah, actually, keepers of the chats, can you introduce our new members,
No,
please?
you said I did it wrong.
No, you did
I
it
am a
wonderfully.
woman scorned.
Oh,
no.
Hell hath no fury.
Brad.
like
oh,
a
no.
like a supermodel scorned. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, if you want to wimp out because you can't handle the priesthood,
All right, you know what?
then no, I just kidding.
Here we go. This is the Shadows edition of welcoming peeps to the chat, to the warship.
Okay,
You ready
cool.
for this?
Yeah, go for it.
Yari M. And then I need to scroll. Carolyn Wright Gaines Music gifted 10 to
What?
Maurice Bryson, Bend Rebel, Good Tago, Clayton, Kevin Devote, Run Shoot Ski, Jordan Tanner, Fog Defense, Jen Oddens. Did I get it all?
I think I was 8. I just put in 10 W's. Oh, I put
Well, what
in
are
9.
the other names?
Whoa.
1, 2, 3,
Zach. No. I think
7,
you did get them
8,
all.
9.
Oh no, you
I
did
think,
get them all.
I think we
did?
skipped over Nathan Bigler.
Nathan Bigler.
I don't see him in
Nathan,
my
welcome
chat.
to the Ward Radio
Nathan
Worship.
Bigler was gifted a membership by Carolyn Wright's Gaines Music. Oh, that's funny. If there is any proof that we will pray for those that spitefully use us, and you know what I'm saying? What's it called?
I don't even see his name though in my phone.
Despitefully use you and persecute you.
And persecute us. Yeah, Nathan Bigler's got a Ward
there
Radio.
he is.
He's got a Ward Radio Wigwam membership. And then yes, Clayton and Kevin DeVault. That's a cool name, DeVault. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. So anyway, we only got another 10 minutes here before we got to go, guys. Unfortunately, we are already, actually technically we're supposed to be done 15 minutes ago, but we got 5 more minutes left. If you got any last super chats that you want to give us, send them our way right now. Before we go though, Brad, you've been a little bit MIA because you've been busy helping your wife.
Yeah.
Dar
with the
a
baby.
luz, as we say in Spanish. Yes, give birth to a beautiful new bebita. Just tell us about this little slice of heaven and the whole 9 yards, dude. How's it going? A dad all over again. Hit us.
Yeah, man. Oh, it's so awesome. And so this is little girl number 3. So we have a girl, a boy, and then this is the third. And man, it is so awesome just seeing these little kids love their new baby sister.
They
so
get along,
awesome.
huh?
Dude, oh yeah, they get along so well. It is awesome. They are psyched to have this little kid in their lives. They are just thrilled to have her in the room. They will go up and like they know they're not allowed to touch her hands because we don't want to have her get sick. They are only allowed to touch her feet, so they'll just play with her feet and she'll like stare down at them like kind of blank stare of a baby, you know, just barely conscious with the world. It's so awesome. She's amazing.
Hey, so do you have the dad front fanny pack? Like in
oh man, I should get one.
Like the Ergo baby carrier.
Yeah.
My baby's lived in those things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We should
Cardin,
get one.
Cardin would wear it too.
Dude, yeah, except for my son had this thing where he'd want to bury his face in your chest, and I'd be afraid that I was like smothering him. You'd look down, and he'd get comfy and warm, and he'd fall asleep, and I'd feel like he'd like passed out or something. So those things kind of like freak me out. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, all right.
Brad, I was gonna ask you though, what's it like to be outnumbered by children? Like,
Dude,
what
I
do
will
you
tell
and
you.
Riley? How do you conquer that?
With discipline.
Nice.
Canadian
Nice.
discipline. Honestly, it doesn't even feel like we're outnumbered because it feels like one of the kids always wants to be on our side anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like
That's
we'll
funny.
have.
So
Go ahead.
before we go, give us some baby hacks, bro. Like we got some young fathers and some young mothers in the chat, you know, like now that you're a seasoned veteran with 3 kids, I mean, you're officially out of liberal territory. You know, liberals only have 1 or 2 kids. You're now in conservative territory. Once you have that third kid, you're over the norm and you're out of, you know, zero populationism. All right. You're out of the, I got to get my degree first, you know, camp. And you're straight up, you're practically a polygamist at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like nowadays, 3
kids makes you a polygamist?
Oh,
wow.
Might as well. I mean, 3 kids, that's massive. Nowadays, like 1 is like now it's just like, just getting out of my system so my parents have a grandkid, you know? So you've got a giant family on 2024 norms here. What are some, actually, in all honesty, I kind of think you do. Like people our age really don't have that many kids, man. It's like, they're so freaking expensive. You know, it's like a luxury.
It's crazy. It is crazy how expensive it is for kids, but hey,
yeah, rock on.
have them.
So what's your some baby hacks that you figured out with baby number 3 that maybe you weren't aware of before, besides just like get rich? Like that might be the best baby hack is get rich.
That's probably the best one. Number 1 is yoga ball. Getting a yoga ball is super helpful for bouncing a baby to sleep. Not by throwing the baby at the yoga ball.
A yoga
like,
ball?
Yeah, like
a
you
yoga
sit on
ball.
it
You know
and
those
like
big.
bounce with the baby.
Really?
Yeah. It's like
Wait,
the
those-
new
yeah,
rocking chair, Cardin.
Wait, those awkward balls that you see people at like 24-hour fitness bouncing on?
Yes. It is so much better than anything I have found for helping a baby fall asleep. You just hold them, sit down, and bounce. They'll be out.
And what a good
It's
core
awesome.
workout, too.
I was
There you
going to
go.
say, don't your hamstrings just start to burn? Like, how do you just...
Brad's
my-
more fit than us, Cardin.
Yeah, I was about going to
Yeah.
say, dude, he's okay. Well, that's number one. What's number two, bro?
Okay, number 2. This one we didn't know. And just kind of found this out. This one, I don't know if there's a trigger warning necessary if anyone's going to be bothered by talking about breastfeeding.
Okay.
But turns out when you are collecting breast milk, try to make sure that you mark your morning breast milk versus your nighttime breast milk, because nighttime breast milk has melatonin that's going to knock your kid out and help them sleep, while daytime, like morning breast milk, that stuff it's got cortisol. It's going to wake your baby up.
Oh,
I never knew that.
Yeah, we didn't either. We didn't
Yeah.
find out till baby 3. We're
that
like, what the heck?
is so awesome. So the nighttime breast milk has melatonin that knocks them out.
Yeah. It helps your baby sleep. It'll help get their sleeping schedule in order. Also, be hyper strict and very, very good about your what's the right word? Routine on when you get your kids to bed. Riley has been amazing about this.
Really?
She is so good at schedules, and it has helped our kids just be so much better when they're well rested and everything's going well. They grow really nicely. Everything's been going great. So
I can't get over that
that's-
melatonin thing where you're naturally drugging your kids to sleep. That's
Yeah.
actually really
Isn't that cool? Yeah, that was something that just like casually one of the nurses like mentioned to us. We're like, what? How come no one told us this before? Like, this is great.
Snagger, it literally says in the chat, Red Bull breast milk. the cortisol breast milk in the morning's buzzing your kid awake. You know what I'm saying? By the way, isn't cortisol like the stress pheromone that you release when you're like working out and you're under stress?
Well, I mean, cortisol, you release it every morning when you wake up, right? Like when you first see the sunlight, that's
Okay.
part of why you start feeling like better when you're sick and you wake up in the morning and you see sunlight on you, like it.
Yeah,
helps
somebody
you out,
just came
so.
into the chat too and says, I just got here talking about breast milk. What is going on? You know what?
Yeah.
Only in the Ward Radio Wigwam. Only in the Ward Radio Wigwam, right?
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, do I bring this up? I mean, it's really cool to know though, so I'm gonna bring it up. But at the end of this debunking the claim as the LDS Church Abusive video, like, here we are.
We're comparing breast milk. I got to tell you, man, that freaks me out. That freaks me out. Those little pumps, man. No
Cardin
way.
could not even touch the bottle
Oh no, dude, that is just gross. I
that
couldn't.
had breast milk in it.
No way, dude. I'll do formula.
Yeah.
I'll do formula all day long. When it's
Dude,
like
formula freaks me out. It's got
what?
so much high fructose corn syrup and stuff in it that when I look at the label of formula, I'm like, no, I don't want to put that in my baby. You know?
Oh,
like,
but
have
not
that be what they live on.
breast milk. Ugh, gross.
Dude,
Like,
Breast milk is like that's like what nature intended, dude. You
no,
can't get closer.
I get it, but I don't want to like dribble on me. Like if formula dribbles on me because babies and it's a bottle and it gets everywhere, fine. But just like no, I don't think that's ugh. That and earrings. I know it's kind of weird, but I can't touch earrings. I think it's gross that something went
I need
through
help.
an ear.
Like sometimes I'm like, Cardin, can you put the back on my earring? And he's like, oh.
Really?
Like the way he has to like put it on, it's like the most gross thing ever.
Yuck, gross. Yeah, it makes me like dry heave, dude.
Yep.
So,
He's not even kidding. Like he can't do earrings. He can't touch them. He can't help me put them on.
oh,
He
dude,
can't
whether it
do
was
wow.
my mom getting ready for
Is
church.
it like a needle thing?
Dude, no, it's just like gross. This idea that it goes through you, just like, sick. I
Oh,
can't
that's
imagine.
funny.
Ugh.
Now I know how to gross out Cardin. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you get. I'm not putting in your belly, Jewel. You know what I'm saying? like, yeah,
Oh my
it's-
God.
yeah. That was like a big thing in the '90s. Not doing it. So, anyway, all right. Well, unfortunately, guys, that's all the time we have. You know, we're winding down here. Before we go
Save
anywhere,
your breast milk questions for the next podcast.
yeah,
people.
exactly. Brad, before we go anywhere, you have to tell us how your book is doing and tell how people can read it, because it's been a while since we publicized it, but every single time we do, there's a couple of new listeners that go out and buy it and they all say they love it. So where are you on your little trilogy of books now? Push your book. We'd love to get more of those out there. Tell us what's going on.
Okay, dude. So I'm glad you brought it up because I definitely was forgetting to bring this up. But guess what?
What?
We published exactly a year ago today.
Oh, shut up. Really?
Yeah. So
wait, your first
our
book or your
first book-
second book?
First book came out a year ago today.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we published book 2 in October. We're still working on book 3. We've got a novella in the works. Book 3 is going to be a little bit slower now that we have the baby here. We
Yeah.
were so close to
Yeah.
finishing it off. But we're going to be, I think, finishing it probably by the end of this month and getting it off to the editors and beta readers. But dude, fun stats. So our book, in its first year, we are on this thing called Kindle Unlimited, right? Where people who are part of Kindle Unlimited on Amazon, it's almost like Netflix for books kind of thing. They pay a subscription and then they can read whatever they want, right?
Yeah.
So our book is in that program, and it tracks the number of pages people are reading of it, right?
Rock on.
And we have over 500,000 page reads on just Kindle Unlimited. Like, that's outside of the sales and everything. Like, it's a ton.
That sounds really, really high. Is that an inflated number, or is like that seems really high?
Honestly, I have no idea like what that's like compared to other self-published authors or anything, right? I don't know where that goes from. Like what to compare to even. But
there's a really
we got
funny
over-
there's an anti-Mormon question in the chat. Did you write this book or did you rip it off like Joseph Smith? Is there a Solomon Spaulding manuscript of Dragon Fever? What's the name of your book again? No, Dragon Thief.
Dragon
yeah,
Fever?
of Dragon Thief.
So have we yet to find the debunked Solomon Spaulding?
I guarantee you could find.
Is there a
that I
book called View of the
plagiarized.
Dragons?
Look, if you ran with the same arguments that people use for View of the Hebrews being the source of the Book of Mormon, yeah, I'm sure you can find a book that is going to look like I plagiarized it, you know?
Next, they're going to say that Joseph Smith used AI to write. Like, I can't wait until AI gets big enough that the anti-Mormons can just like, their revisionist history is so bad. I can't wait until I see my first anti-Mormon claim that he used artificial intelligence. You know, like there will come a day where they actually mistakenly make that attribution, and it's going to be really funny. Also, somebody's asking, can people get signed copies, bro? Do you got like your own like merch store or something? Is there some of that melatonin breast milk that comes with your own signed copy if they're trying to drug their kid before they go to bed?
Selling that, like,
Dude,
You're in Utah. Everyone sells the breast milk.
no, that's like a legit industry. Did you know that?
oh really?
Oh yeah, like there's women that want to breastfeed their children, but they can't either produce enough breast milk themselves.
So you need like a wet nurse.
Yeah, you need
like
like
a
a
thing.
wet nurse, and so
Yeah.
there's women who like are like apparently their bodies produce a ton of it, and like you just schedule like there's apps for it and stuff, dude. So like,
Really?
oh yeah, when it's like feeding time and like your wet nurse comes over and then like yeah, it's crazy, dude. Man, like it's like.
Okay, wait. Before we go off on a breast milk tangent again, I did forget one super chat from Scotty Mitz.
Oh,
he
hit
says,
it.
4 of my 6 siblings have 4 kids, and my sis has 3.
Bless
Nice.
your siblings.
Done, Scotty.
Yeah, awesome. So anyway, signed books. How can people get them? How can people get your
So-
stuff?
We've actually, I never thought we would be here, but we've been getting that request a lot. So we're going to start putting them up on our website. So if you go to skystonechronicles.com, we have a little shop there. We've got like t-shirts and hoodies and stuff right now. That's just like print on demand stuff, but we are going to put up our signed hardcovers on there. And I don't know if we would need signed paperbacks if people would want that or not. I don't know if that's a thing that people would be interested in.
Give the
but
people what they
we're-
want, Brad.
What?
Give the people what they want.
Yeah,
They're asking for it.
I want a signed dragon.
Oh.
I will pay extra money for the signed dragon. Hey, have you considered getting some of your artistic friends to make maquettes of the dragons? And like,
Dude.
you know,
Guess what we actually did?
what'd you do?
So at Brandon Sanderson's Dragonsteel convention around the end of last year, we 3D printed a ton of little dragon scales, because in our book, if you bond a dragon, they give you their heart scale, right? So we like made
okay.
these dragon heart scale necklaces, and we gave those away with every copy of the book that we sold. And that led to us selling out. And it was awesome. It was
Nice.
great. So maybe we'll find some way to incorporate a dragon in there too, if we
Yeah,
can.
that's cool, bro.
We've actually, the dragon crest that we have on our t-shirt and on our hoodies is actually pretty awesome. Riley designed those because she's a killer artist. So I think I'll be having those. I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to be able to, because we're waiting on shipping from our publisher, the Ingram Spark that sends out the copies. So I'm kind of waiting on those, but if anyone is interested in getting a signed copy, I'm going to definitely be announcing that through our newsletter. So if you go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, anyone who's interested in that, for sure, will be sending it there.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Sick. Well, anyway, speaking of newsletters, guys, if you got the time and you're interested, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Please check out our website, wardradio.com, and you guys will notice that if you go to the bottom of wardradio.com, besides passing by all of our cool little bios and all of our videos and stuff like that, where it says join the club, you can join our email list as well. We're actually going to start, hopefully, be putting out more newsletter material of our own. Also, if you haven't had a chance yet, please take a look at, right here, I'm going to put it at the top of the screen, on wardradio.com, right there on the top right, you see the social media bar right there. Well, there, if you click on that last icon, you can join the Discord, and shout out to all of our moderators who are the ones that moderate our Discord. It's a ton of fun. Brad, you're in the Discord quite often. I see. What do you think of the Discord, man? Pretty cool or what?
Dude, the Discord's a blast. I'm kind of a lurker. I don't say much in there, but there are some really fun conversations going on in there, like all the time. It's really fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty fun. And guys, if you haven't had a chance yet to check it out, it's super fun. Be able to converse and talk and socialize digitally with other people that are like-minded individuals. It's a fun, safe place to talk about really cool theories that you have, deep doctrine, church news, so on and so forth. And Brittany, you got one last thing to say before we go.
One last super chat just kind of snuck right in there.
Okay, one last super chat before we go. Hit it.
From, I think it's Keen.
Okay, cool.
He says, I'm at work, so the video is muted, but I'm a evangelical who used to criticize you a lot. But now I think you're really pretty cool and appreciate the passion.
All right. Hey, I'll take
you.
that, Keen. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
awesome.
Yeah, in fact, Keen, reach out on the website. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a convo with you on the channel. It's kind of hard to get like people that have amicable conversations sometimes, you know. And if you're not opposed to it, maybe we'll get something going on. So yeah, reach out on the website. So anyway, his name is Brad Whitbeck,
And he wrote a book.
and he wrote a book called The Skystone Chronicles Dragon Thief. And then the second one was Dragon Guard, right?
And yeah, anyone who is looking for it, Riley and I wrote under a pen name of Blake and Raven Pen.
Yes.
So if you can't find it under Brad Whitbeck, that's why.
So when are you going to do your urban dragon science fiction and write Dragon Bouncer? You know, and like...
So not under that title, but we do actually have like an idea for a kind of almost post-apocalyptic here on Earth sort of thing. Like, if what would happen if the dragons from our other world like collided here? We have that in the works, man.
Okay, cool, sick. It's like Last Action Hero, but just with dragons instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I totally dated myself with that movie reference. All right.
I've never heard of that movie. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Last Action Hero, bro. Might have been a little bit before your time, but my dad was big time into movies. All right. And it's a cool movie. Came out in the 90s. It's about the end of the action hero movie era. And it has Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's pretty funny. So anyway, all right. Thank you very much. Giga Chad Penn, that's your new name in the chat, and I think it works. Blake and Raven Penn, you're Giga Chad Penn. Thank you very much, Brittany, for being the keepress of the chats. You did such a lovely and a wonderful job. And everybody, if you can, please check out our newsletter, check out our Discord. As always, it has been real and it has been fun, and it has been real fun. For this and more, please check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing. You're gonna feel my sonic boom. I'm flying higher and I'm never coming down. Look Look at me now.